Okay, we're going to move on to an update on the implementation of Senate Bill 1440 transfer, student transfer, item 3.2. Vice Chancellor Skinner.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. President Baca, members of the board, Chancellor Harris. This item is your standing update on the implementation of Senate Bill 1440, the transfer reform carried by Senator Padilla. And today I have with me Vice Chancellor Paul Feast.
Excuse me, Vice Chancellor Skinner, this is the handout that you might want to read for.
As well as Dr. Michelle Pilati, President of the Academic Senate, and we're going to provide an update on our progress. And so I'm going to begin with the first piece of this, which is an update on where we're at in terms of degree approval. As you know, this is one of the standing items that we provide you an update on. We don't have the matrix this time. We will provide that at the next board meeting. But what I can tell you is at the last board meeting there were, I believe it was 501 degrees that have been approved system-wide. We are now up to 535. Modest increase. I think the holidays slowed that down a little bit. But it's exciting to note we have another 150 degrees that have been received that are now in the queue for review and approval. So I think we're going to see a good bump in those numbers, hopefully by your next board meeting. There continues to be quite a range across our colleges, with some of our colleges only having two degrees approved, but others that are closer to 20 at this point. So there's a range in terms of the implementation, and that's one of the issues that we're watching, and we are aware that we need to apply additional pressure on the districts, the colleges that are at the lower end of that spectrum, to help them catch up. And we think that's going to happen on the natural. I think some of this is a matter of timing, and it takes a while to get the momentum rolling. And so really, that gets at the other issue I was going to mention, which is just a reminder of, and keeping it in front of you, the goals that you as a board have established of achieving 80% of degrees being covered by SB 1440 by the end of this year. So those degrees will be in place and ready for students to sign up for beginning next fall. And then 100% implementation by the end of the next year. So we're actively shifting gears into the mode of emphasizing those goals and applying pressure on districts to move forward. I think that definitely I'd say on behalf of the Chancellor's Office that we are proud of the progress that our college has been made that they've made so far, but we're well aware that it's going to take some continued efforts and hard work in order to get to where we need to be for full implementation. Next month I'll be as I mentioned, we're working to keep that focus up on a variety of levels. We've been setting directions and reminders to the districts about the goals, and we're taking the opportunity at conferences and events as well to speak about the need for improving, increasing the number of degrees. I was going to note that I've been invited to address the LA Chamber of Commerce, their education committee next month, and they've actually invited me to speak specifically about this issue and about how the business community could use its leverage to encourage forward progress, both with the community colleges and also with CSU in terms of implementation of 1440. So I think that as we continue with implementation, there is a great deal of progress to note so far, and a great deal of enthusiasm as we push forward. Michelle Pilati was going to address some other aspects of the implementation, particularly around the TMCs, and then Paul Feast is going to provide a more in-depth update on some of our communications efforts around implementation.
So good morning. I believe I shared last time that we had a few TMCs that we were expecting to be finalized in the near future. And so since we were last together, Both philosophy and Spanish have finalized TMCs that are posted, and soon colleges will be able to start submitting degrees against those. In December, we held meetings on 2 different Saturdays to bring faculty together to work on the descriptors for the courses that are part of the TMCs, and also in one instance to talk about the TMC for the discipline, and that was specifically biology, which I know there were a lot of questions about. Biology is working, and we're hoping that they will have their TMC up for vetting very soon. They spent a lot of time working on the courses because how courses are sequenced varies, and they're trying to create a structure that would work for as many colleges as possible. Currently, we have vetting right now, radio, television, and film, a TMC for that discipline. And then because engineering doesn't fit into the 1440 structure, we have what we're calling model curriculum for engineering with 2 model curricula for engineering that are currently posted for vetting. And the vetting for both of those three things ends February 15th, so we'll see what happens then. So we have 24 finalized TMCs right now. Technically, we have 25 because chemistry is finalized, but we're waiting for that alternative general education pattern, the issues around that to be worked out. In fall, we brought together a number of CTE disciplines, and now we're working on finalizing the lead discipline groups to take all the information from those meetings and pull it together. We also have scheduled in February a meeting of biotechnology faculty to talk about degrees and courses and certificates in those programs. So that's where we're at to date.
President Baca and members of the board, good morning. I'd like to update you on some of the major activities with regard to marketing and outreach. Obviously, a critical component of this program is making students aware of the Associate Degree for Transfer program. And so we've been working with our counterparts at CSU over the past year to roll out a comprehensive outreach and marketing program. The major activities include the establishment of a degreewithaguarantee.com, which is the main website that is meant to inform students and their influencers about the degree program, which majors are available, what are some of the conditions and the fine print of the degree program, where these programs are available, these majors are available, and we're driving traffic to this website. A combination of strategies. One is collateral materials that we've developed. Some of the that have been deployed to high school counseling offices and college counseling offices. We've also had a paid media advertising strategy that we had in October and November, which employed digital advertising and radio to drive students to that site. As I mentioned earlier, we have developed some mini posters and tear pads. We've developed, obviously, a logo and tagline, and made those available to campuses for customized use. And the Academic Senate has developed a bookmark checklist that's very popular, and that's been deployed to all the high school campuses in California as well as community colleges. Here's an idea, here's a rendering of the posters and some of the collateral that's been prepared. You can see in front of me, this is a tear pad, so this is in a counselor's office, and this portion here is just torn off and can be given to a student, and they can put it in his or her book or folder, and then go back to access the degreewithaguarantee.com. These are some of the digital ads that were displayed during the marketing push in October and November. These are static and rotating banner ads that were placed on websites that are frequented by our target audience, people between 16 and 24 years old. We also have used radio ads, both broadcast and web streaming. And in these, I'll play these ads for you. These radio ads show or depict a student who encounters his or her older self after the student has received an associate degree for transfer and then gone on to a bachelor's degree. So this is one of the ads that's been pulling.
Can we talk?
Do I know you?
I'm you in 20 years.
Wow, I look like professional.
It's because we earned 2 college degrees.
Me? Us? No way. How?
We enrolled in our local community college and earned an associate degree for transfer. That gave us guaranteed admission to a CSU where we earned our bachelor's. And since we didn't waste time with classes we didn't need, we saved money. So go to adegreewithaguarantee.com or talk to a school counselor.
I can't believe how classy I am.
Get started at adegreewithaguarantee.com.
Hey, big guy. Hey, you look familiar. I'm you in 20 years. What's up with the Sunday suit? Business suit. It's because we earned 2 college degrees. Cool. How'd we do that? We enrolled in our local community college and earned an associate degree for transfer. That gave us guaranteed admission to a CSU where we earned our bachelor's. And since we didn't waste time with classes we didn't need, we saved money. So, go to adegreewithaguarantee.com or talk to someone in the school counselor's office. Nice. I'm glad we did that. Get started at adegreewithaguarantee.com.
It's been airing on a number of radio stations, and we have had limited resources available to pay for these ads, but we've also been very successful in getting in-kind contributions. Clear Channel Radio, for example, donated about $300,000 worth of inventory in the month of December alone, and that'll enabled us to play these ads in the Los Angeles market, the Sacramento market, and various other markets. So this is the main page, landing page for adegreewithaguarantee.com. As I said, it's got resources available for students. It's got success stories of some of the students who have already been through the program, who have and have successfully transferred to a CSU. It has a college locator. You can find out which degrees are approved, and it has a contact list for where to go to get more information from a counselor at a campus. This is an interior page that displays the degrees that are available, and if you click on any one of those majors, it gives more information. The site has been pretty successful since it was launched in early October. We've had more than 34,000 unique visitors. The average duration is about 2 minutes on the site, and that continues to increase. The distribution of visitors around the state is pretty much proportional to population, with San Diego showing a little bit higher traffic. Here's a kind of a rolling chart of what the traffic has looked like since the website was launched. As you can see, during the paid media campaign in October and early November, there was a lot of traffic. Once that stopped, it trailed off a little bit, and then that bump again you see is when we were fortunate enough to get the Clear Channel in-kind contribution. The number one page on the website is the degrees page with 24,000 visitors. Contact information about the program and about the guarantee. Again, those are sort of the fine details of how the program works. And then you get into your specific majors. Business administration and psychology seem to be very popular. So in the future, we plan to reprint a lot of the collateral materials that have already been sent out to schools and deploy those again. We also need to search for additional funding resources to keep these marketing efforts going. The lion's share of this marketing effort has been paid for by the Complete College America grant and in-kind contributions, so we need to secure funding to keep this outreach going. And we also are planning to do some outreach to the student newspapers in the early part of this year. As a kind of an untapped resource, we can have news conferences with student newspapers, student journalists, and help push the word out.
So just in conclusion, I'd just like to reemphasize the progress we've been making as a team. It absolutely is a collaborative effort, not only within the Chancellor's Office, Student Services under Linda Michalowski and Academic Affairs under Barry Russell. It's been a major work center over the last year in terms of the effort of moving this along, and it's been a great deal of collaboration as well as with with the Academic Senate have been a great partner in this. And then throughout this whole process, it's been closely coordinated with CSU as well. So, you know, we're committed to continue that forward progress, and we're open to whatever questions you have for us.
Evan McDougal?
I'd like to thank the presenters for what I think was a tremendously positive report and the movement that has taken place since the last report we had on this area. Personally, I view this as one of the most important areas of follow-up and focus that this board has. But I want to particularly mention 4 quick things, and then I have a question. Number one is I'd like to commend the work with biology and engineering. I think both of those are critical. I'm glad it's progressing. I think those are very, very important areas to continue to proceed on. Second, the fact that we have 25, that's an increase, substantial increase over where we were the last time at 20. So that's very good. And I was particularly encouraged, third point, by your comment, Vice Chancellor Stringer, that by the end of 2013, 80% of the projects would be completed, the majors would be completed, and by the end of 2014, we would have 100%. I think that shows a tremendous commitment. And then fourth, I'd just like to highlight the wonderful presentation that I think Vice Chancellor Feast made on getting it out. We can have the best program going, but if students don't know about it, it's not going to have that much of an impact. And I think both the material and the response really excellent in terms of the ability of students to look at it, quickly get an understanding of what the major area of focus is, and then to be able to follow up relatively easily. So to me, it's a very, very encouraging report, and I think it shows a great deal of progress since the last time we had a presentation on it. The question I have is, I know we have 25. When we say we will have 80% or 100%, what do we assume the number of majors are that we will have agreements for, so students are assured they enroll in the community colleges, 4 years later they have that option of graduating? Is it 60, is it 80, is it 100? How many majors are we, do we see as our target?
So the 80% and 100% targets are campus-specific or college-specific. So just to begin with, getting that framework straight.
So it's not based on the discipline, because what we have right now, the 25 we have, are discipline-based.
That's right. So there are 25 now, and Michelle can weigh in on what the final goal is in terms of the number of TMCs. But then that needs to be interpreted on a campus level. So any particular college, say Pierce College, if they have 18 of those 25 disciplines.
I would hope we would be shooting for them to have a lot more. I know 500 sounds like a big number, but when you divide by the 112 colleges, it represents only 5 majors per institution on average. That's not very acceptable, really.
Right. And just to try to make this clear, so for instance, you got to take it down to the local level. Pierce College, if we have 25 TMCs that are in place, they're and say they only offer 19 of those degrees. So Pierce College, that becomes their denominator, 19. And the goal will be to get to 19 out of 19 being covered by the end of 2014.
Would it be, given what you just stated, would it be appropriate to say that the goal is 100% of the majors, the transferable majors,
offered
that
at a college.
Each of our colleges has?
Precisely,
that's our goal.
Precisely, 100%.
Yeah, I believe that because we needed to, the goal needed to be pinned down at a specified point in time, and it was pinned down at the point in time when we had 22 TMCs, so it's based on that 22 TMC number. So I was looking over at Vice Chancellor Russell to confirm that. So it's based on those 22. Now we have more, so there's more opportunities there. So there may be a need to reassess the goal setting. As far as the ultimate number of TMCs that we are going to develop, just as marketing was relying on the CCA dollars for their work, we were relying on the CCA dollars for our work. And at this point in time, we're pretty much, we are in need of funding to do more, and that's why we're now able to focus on CTE disciplines by using CTE dollars, but we're in a funding crunch right now as well, as far as moving this forward and getting into more of your standard transfer disciplines.
Vice Chancellor Russell, you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in a bit. We're going through a process of working with all of the campuses to establish the goal and be able to print the goal. At your next meeting, you'll have a report that will have all of that information by college, the number of degrees that they have as their goal, and then we will, every board meeting will update that number to give you an idea. We'll have little thermometers for each one, trying to make sure everybody gets to the goal.
Yeah, if I may just finish, because I would hope that every transfer program that a college has would have its consequent connection to a CSU campus. Because that way, every student who goes into a community college with a major that's transferable will be able to transfer after 2 years. And when that's accomplished, that's a major achievement for everyone, and it's a tremendous service to students, and it'll make us so much more attractive, I think, as institutions.
And that's the vision we're committed to, and it's built into the 80% and 100% goals of the board, is exactly that approach.
Thank you.
Member Lansky?
I don't know if I'll ask this well, but thank you for the presentation and for continuing the update. But I'd like to focus again on the CSU system to ask, are they doing a lot again in terms of trying to find their local degrees and align them with these TMCs? I know the last time we had this in November, I raised the question about business administration because it was clear that a lot of CSUs were unwilling, in a sense, to align them with a number of degrees to give students the opportunity. And business administration is a major area that students choose to go into. That's why, business administration psychology are here as the high number of hits of students going in and looking at those. I'm just curious, where are things with them and getting them to do more to align those degrees?
Well, we're continuing to apply pressure on that front, and I think we're making progress. The way the conversation is largely playing out is we've asked CSU to provide additional data to us about, and this really kind of gets down to the details of it, but say within business administration, you can have a number of kind of sub-specialties within that. And what CSU is committed to is getting to a place where every one of their campuses honors each of the degrees. So they would honor the business administration degree at each of their campuses. But what's vitally important is that access is provided across the spectrum of the sub-disciplines. So within business, and this is the data we've asked them to provide to us is looking at if there's a specialization within business administration that a campus has deemed to be similar to the TMC, we want to know what proportion of students in their business administration program were in that specialization. And so, for instance, if it's a specialization, if it's that represents 10% of the students coming into their business program, well, that's not meaningful. What we want to see is the full coverage within each of their programs. And so this is, it doesn't happen overnight, but I think once that data is on the table, it's going to be easier for us to apply pressure for them to get to that full coverage. And so in some ways it speaks to how this whole process is played out, which it's all of this is more complicated than it seems on the surface. That's why California hasn't been able to crack this nut in the last 35, 40 years that they've been working on it. But by taking this methodical approach of looking at the data, asking the hard question, and pushing forward, I think we're going to be able to get to that full coverage.
There also has been work on an economics TMC that has been done, and if there's going to be an economics TMC, it needs to differ enough from the business administration TMC to make sense. And so if economics comes out with one, I would imagine it would help fill some of those gaps where the business administration TMC wasn't able to work. So there's a potential there as well.
Yeah, I just, as we do this, not to solely focus on what the community colleges are doing and how many degrees we get into place, but once you've got those into place, how valuable are they to the student in trying to go to their local CSU? And that's why I brought up business administration in the Bay Area, where they have really narrowed how many they're willing to align and say, you know, even though this is lower division and they would specialize in the upper division, and that's still, by your saying, well, give me the data and let's look at all of this. Thank you.
Chancellor Harris?
Well, I just want to underscore what Board of Governor Member Belinsky is highlighting, and that is this is a partnership between us and the CSU, and Chancellor White is now newer than I am. He started this last week, and he and I plan to talk later in the month. And I think it's important for both our systems that the two of us reaffirm our clear commitment to the implementation of this program. And I think you know, the wonderful work done by Michelle and our faculty up and down the state, you know, really needs to be matched action by the CSU. And I'm not suggesting they have not done that, but I think it's important that we underscore the two new leaders' commitment to the project.
Vice President Wong?
First off, I want to share Member McDougall's comments about the enthusiasm for this program, and this possibly being the last meeting for Member McDougall and Member Himmelstein. It's one of those tangible achievements over the last 3 years under their leadership that we've been able to pursue, obviously with the help of Senator Padilla in starting the legislation, but it's something that wasn't in place just a couple of years ago, and to see the progress that's being made by our system in passing and approving those degrees is very encouraging. And I'm really reassured by the Chancellor's comments, because what we're saying with this marketing campaign, a degree with a guarantee, we're making a promise out there to the students of the state of California that we're going to guarantee them, and if we don't have a partner on the other side as equally committed to fulfilling and keeping with that promise, then that will be a challenge, and it will be a disaster, I believe, for the state and for our students. So we're making this promise, and we've made it publicly through the media campaign, which I think is terrific and sums it up. And I want to make sure, and I'm glad to hear the Chancellor will pursue it with the new Chancellor of Cal State, so that we have that partnership going forward. Just a really quick comment about the marketing campaign, though, as well. Is that all being managed within the system office and under your jurisdiction, Vice Chancellor Feast? Like, who's maintaining the website and those things?
We're maintaining the website currently.
And then, are there social media aspects to this that are being employed as well?
We had considered social media at the outset and decided against it initially because of the need for very detailed instruction and feedback that we probably would not be able to provide in a social media exchange. So we want to make sure that they have the best information, the most accurate information, and we just felt that we couldn't necessarily deliver that on a social media platform at this point.
I've just found, obviously, that even just a basic Facebook page that still directs people back to the website for the most current information.
Our existing social media platforms do mention and promote the Associate Degree for Transfer and the website. And
then one other thing that I know we don't have the budget for a statewide paid media campaign, but I was just thinking about some other options where if we could get each of our colleges on their transfer pages to put a button that that would be a way to drive traffic, because that's where students are already going for transfer ideas. And many of the high schools obviously have counseling pages and preparing kids for thinking about college. And if there's even an email that could go out and say, here, just put this button on your page that will be a way to get the word out to students. That shouldn't cost a lot of paid
No,
dollars.
it's very easy to do, and that's in our plans as well. We do have the logos. They're able to do it on their own, but we will certainly push that out again.
So we can
and
drive as
provide
much
them with the
traffic that way. too. Thanks.
Any other comments? You know, thank you very much for the work you're doing. I know every time we have a major effort such as this one, which is definitely one of those major ones, we certainly have a challenge just in getting it to happen. And so congratulations on a lot of the work that you've done with regard to just moving the agenda along. And you know, Vice Chancellor Feast on the Clear Channel contribution, that's great. It'd be great if we could get even more of that, because that would certainly help us get the word out more effectively. Thank you very much.